Good morning. My name is Pablo Willie Bustos, and I'm the director of music here. Let's start today by arriving in song. Please rise in body and spirit and join me in singing two hymns today. Love will guide us, and we give thanks.
Good morning. Welcome to First Unitarian Church of Rochester. Here in this sanctuary, here wherever it is that you happen to be, today and every day between Sundays, our mission is through spiritual connection in community. We listen deeply to others and ourselves. We open to wonder and transformation, and we serve together with love and humility. I'm the Reverend Sherry Halliday-Kwan. I'm one of the ministers that serves this congregation, and I am delighted this Sunday to be leading worship with Chris Dorso, one of our lay worship associates who's preaching today. Yeah. We've got Elise and Pablo and an AV team that is growing because AV is what makes all of this work, both here in the sanctuary and online. It is the work of many hands, what we do here together at church, and it takes all of you also. So we gather here on the ancestral and contemporary land of the Haudenosaunee people, keepers of the Western Door, and we gather here acknowledging that we are not the first to move in this space, on this land, or in this building, and we are not the last. Together, we build a community that is worthy of our grandchildren and children yet to come. If you are new or newish here, I invite you to let us know in the chat or stop by the welcome desk. And if you're going through a hard time today or you're worried about someone else, I invite you to connect with one of our chaplains today. We are here to listen to one another. It's both a really joyful week in our community. We're coming off, some of us, not that I was on the field, but a Red Wings win this past week when some of us gathered for Pride Night. But that's all prep for a really big presence during the Pride Parade this weekend. And we've got a table out there that I invite you to sign up for to help decorate the float or to march or to, I imagine these spots will be precious, but ride on the float. And it's also an important week for us in terms of changes that are hard. Our Director of Religious Education, Sheila Shu, will be saying goodbye to our community at the end of July. And so I invite you over the next few weeks to make some time with her. If you're someone whose family that she's helped shape, then spend some time with her and let her know how much you've appreciated her. And on July 30th, we will gather to say a really good goodbye together. All right. Well, here on Sunday morning, like I said, and like I always say, it does take all of us. And so Elise Wall will be lighting our chalice here in the sanctuary. If you're online, I invite you to light a chalice wherever you are. And those of us gathered will need to join all of our voices in our unison words. Life is a gift for which we are grateful. We gather in community to celebrate the glories and mysteries of this great gift.
Hello, everyone. I'm Elise Wall. I use she and her pronouns, and I'm happy to be with you today. I'm glad you're here. In a little while, Chris is going to share his insights on gaming. Now, I'm not much of a gamer. I don't enjoy card games or puzzles very much. I never play electronic games. We did enjoy playing family board games when our kids were young, but that time has sort of passed. One year at Summer Assembly, a family camp for UU families, one of the evening activities for adults was playing board games together. So we got together with a group of friends and played a game called Cranium, which was a lot of fun. If you haven't played it, try it. I drew a card that instructed me to hum a popular Madonna tune without any facial expressions or hand gestures or body movements. Now, if you know me even a little, even if this is your first time seeing me, you know I talk with my hands, I talk with my face, sometimes I talk with my whole body. I felt so foolish sitting stock still, humming away. And in my head, that tune was spot on. Unfortunately, I was met with blank stares from all of my teammates. And isn't that why we come to church? Here at First Unitarian, we hold each other in love and acceptance. When we're foolish and can't express ourselves well, we offer each other patience and acknowledgement and grace. May it be so. I invite you now to rise as you are able. Greet your neighbors. If you're online, you can type type a message in the chat of where you're joining us from today. When you hear the music come up, then it's time to go back to your seats. Greet each other.
Morning, everybody. My name is Chris Dorso, pronouns are he and him, and I'm excited to welcome you all into my world a little bit today. 56 days ago, give or take, 300 plus hours in Hyrule ago, which, if you do the math, is right around 4.5 hours a day. The latest game in the Legend of Zelda series, Tears of the Kingdom, was released. And I say 4.5 hours a day because that's how many hours it's been on between me and the kids every single day since then. But on that day, on the May 12th, the day that it was released, my friend, the Reverend Sam Kinsman, who's the chaplain at U of R and one of the chaplains at RIT, wrote a Zelda Day blessing. And I said, I'm going to steal this because I loved it. It's dangerous to go alone. Take us along. As you discover whatever this adventure may hold, see if you can find your childhood eyes yet again. Let this be an experience marked by wonder. Stow away expectations as best you can. It's often so difficult to tear ourselves away from the singular ownership of media that we love. May this be an opportunity to share this one together. Whether it's our favorite or we're still pining for Wind Waker 2.0, what can we learn? Can we find a new, expansive view of our beloved series rather than the metrics-obsessed over-quantification that is so in vogue? Breath of the Wild was such a singular, isolated experience. After 6 years, I think this one could feel more communal. We're still here, thank goodness, and I hope the gentle chime of Koroks guide us to something meaningful, absurd, and edifying. Yahaha! One of the first great games that I distinctly remember spending a lot of time with as a kid was the Zork adventure series. Zork was an interactive fiction text adventure with no images, just verbal descriptions. So the first game in the series, back in 1980 whatever, started with a simple prompt. Close your eyes for a minute and imagine with me. You're standing in an open field west of a white house with a boarded front door. There's a mailbox here. That's it. That's your world that you're presented with. What do you do? Where do you go? Do you open the mailbox? Walk around the house? Head north? Head south? No guidance, no map, no instructions. And as you play, this detailed world opens around you with puzzles and monsters and treasures. And just like life, where you're given no map, no instructions, you learn to figure out what the world wants from you, to figure out what your treasure is, to prevent yourself from walking into the slavering fangs of a lurking Gru. So imagine your world. Place yourself in front of that White House with a boarded front door and a mailbox, and imagine, like I did at 8 years old, where you'd go, what you'd do, and what possibilities the world presents to you.
Prayer comes in many forms as Unitarian Universalists. Sometimes we bless how we engage in games. And we bless to the world with our actions and the choices that we make. We're faced with a mailbox. What do we do? We start our services here in song to move that spirit of presence into our bodies. And so I'm going to invite you into a body prayer. It's one we do every now and again here. And if you're new here, worry not. None of us have very good memories this time of year. It's hot. We'll review it all together. So you can remain seated. You can stand if you would like. And we'll do this body prayer 3 times. I'll talk us through it the first time, with fewer words the second time, and then we'll do it with music, but silence from me the third time. So I'll begin by standing. You're welcome to do that also. And you'll have your hands in prayer pose wherever you are. And we reach up to that block with a mushroom above it. And we open ourselves to the sky. And then we squat down, pressing buttons to duck. And we scoop up all the coins that are there, all the ones that we need, and we press them into our pouch. And we return to center. Stretching up. Opening. Moving down. Scooping up. Pressing in. Once more. If you're already standing, I invite you to remain standing because you may want to move towards one of these tables in the center. Here in community, it means relying on one another. It means opening our hearts with something to share. And so if over the past week, or really since the last time you've been here, or if it's your first time, literally any time in your life, if there's something that you're holding in your heart, some symbol of growth, some grief, or gratitude, I invite you to share that in the chat or move to one of our center aisles and light a candle. May we be present to one another. May we share what's in our hearts and know that together the warmth that we feel is carried together. I invite you now to engage in our community ritual. May all shared here and all held silently in our hearts be blessed by this community. Amen and blessed be.
Each week, members and friends generously contribute to our offering, which helps to sustain and grow our community. This collection supports the work and witness of our church, and each week we give half of this collection to a partner organization, helping those in need and working to create a more just and loving world. This week, we are sharing the plate collection with Metro Justice. Metro Justice is a long-term First Unitarian community partner that has been at the forefront of major efforts for racial, social, and economic justice in the Rochester area for nearly 60 years. One of their biggest campaigns right now is working to turn RG&E into a public utility, like Fairports, to advance green investment in our infrastructure, create local economic opportunities, and to literally keep the lights on for those struggling with some of the most expensive power in the country. You can give online at rochesterunitarian.org/donate, by Venmo, or in our baskets here in the sanctuary. Our offering will now be received with gratitude.
Consider our hero, a simple man with austere appetites, but an infinite fund of energy. The world that surrounds him is a puzzling, ever-evolving labyrinth. His life's vocation is to make this world a cleaner, safer place while chasing down the rewards that are his unique birthright. Our hero, however, is haunted by flickering specters that dodge around corners as he approaches, only to reemerge behind him in steady and awful chase. He restlessly pursues the woman that he loves through this strange environment, or is she pursuing him? Either way, their love is as wholehearted and inevitable as the ancient principle that like attracts like. To anyone who didn't grow up on video games, you're probably thinking this is the plot of some surreal black and white film noir. I am referring to Pac-Man. As humans, we have a fundamental drive to feel competent, to succeed. And yet millions of us around the world spend billions of dollars and thousands of hours every year, knowing that eventually the ghosts will catch up to you. Galactus will swing those giant cutlasses. Bowser will hit you with that fireball. And eventually your world will fade to black. This is what Jesper Juhl calls the paradox of failure. We generally avoid failure. We experience failure while playing games, and yet we seek out games even though we will experience something that we normally avoid. This paradox is not unique to the gaming world. It's the same reason we watch sad movies. We don't think about it as a paradox, but seriously, do you need to watch the end of Titanic again? And again? My old roommate Tracy, who's usually here, but she's out of town this week, must have watched it more than a dozen times in the theater. The paradox isn't that the game or the movie makes us sad, it's that we search for it despite that knowledge that disappointment's right around the corner, and it's that disappointment, that loss, that's one of the reasons why games matter. Video games, love them or not, are a factor in our lives and have been for 50 years. Since a bunch of scientists created Pong way back in 1972, and they're going to be with us for a very, very long time. I got this next piece from a TED Talk from Jane McGonigal. Dr. McGonigal is the Director of Games Research and Development at the Institute for the Future in Palo Alto. Her research suggests that gamers are expert problem solvers and collaborators because they regularly cooperate with other players to overcome daunting virtual challenges. Dr. McGonigal talks about a study with hospice workers who tell you the 5 biggest regrets that they hear are, I wish I hadn't worked so hard, I wish I'd spent more time with my friends, I wish I'd let myself be happier, I wish I'd been able to express my true self, and I wish I'd followed my dreams. Some of these seem really self-explanatory in the context of what I'm talking about. To play a game is the antithesis of working so hard, unless you're spending dozens of hours in Hyrule playing Legends of Zelda. The point here is that in this particular series, it's full of challenging puzzles and monsters, and when you worked really hard to beat the same room of Darknuts over and over and over, you're working really, really hard. The flip side of that is letting myself be happier. I'd like to take a quick second to introduce 2 concepts in the field of game studies that you know, whether you experience them, whether you're a gamer or not. You might not know the names. Developed by a Hungarian psychologist named Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, these definitions are from Ellie Humphrey of Purblue, which is a game company. Flow is that in-the-zone feeling. It's the feeling of intense concentration and efficiency. When you're deep in the throes of Candy Crush or Pokemon Go or whatever, that's flow. When I'm standing in front of a Miss Pac-Man machine that's set on fast mode, that's flow. When Pablo's at the piano, Reverend Sherry's up here, Robert's talking about the church finances, that's flow. Key aspects of flow include a challenge with clear goals, well-established rules for action, and increased difficulty over time. Church finances. All these things tend to lend themselves nicely to gaming. In fact, the very nature of video games allow players to achieve the feeling of flow much faster. When a gamer is experiencing this emotional high, quitting or winning would be equally dissatisfying outcomes. They want to keep playing and stay in the zone as long as possible. Csikszentmihalyi says flow is, quote, being completely involved in an activity for its own sake. The ego falls away, time flies. Every action, movement, and thought follows inevitably from the previous one, like playing jazz. Your whole being is involved, and you're using your skills to the utmost. Fiero is a term used by game designers to describe that feeling of emotional elation after a huge discovery or victory within a game. What's coolest about this emotion is that we all express it more or less the same way, which is why Fiero is considered one of our most primal emotions. You know the feeling, or you've seen it, when a player throws their arms over their head or yells. Scientists will tell you Fiero is one of the most powerful neurochemical highs that we can experience. Fiero is beating that room of dark nuts after spending hours hammering at them. Fiero is realizing that bingo on your Words with Friends rack. Fiero is what we play games for emotionally. Game designers aim to hit the sweet spot between flow and Fiero moments in a game. They create game mechanics and features to take their players to these emotional highs and keep them coming back for more. So in the context of letting myself be happier, that's pretty much it right there. Spending time with friends. I currently have 14 active Words with Friends games, including games with college friends here in Rochester, Austin, Texas, Milwaukee, colleagues in Boston, Arkansas, and St. Louis, my aunt, Emily's aunt, 3 friends from high school. I can safely say the simple act of playing a game very much keeps me in touch with friends and family. Expressing your true self. There's no better, easier way to express your true self than through games. Many games now allow you to create an avatar or profile of yourself, and there's a great old New Yorker cartoon, 2 dogs sitting at a computer, and one says to the other on the internet, "Nobody knows you're a dog." This is Flamingo Booplesnoot. Flamingo is a character in the Hogwarts Mystery Game. It's a mobile game that carves out a little backstory in the years leading up to the main story of the Harry Potter series. Flamingo isn't just any character, she's my character. She's me, living vicariously through house selection and learning potions and fighting evil and whatnot. Flamingo is the me that I could never be in reality, don't want to be in reality, but yet allows me the kind of free expression where I can escape and be that version of myself that wonders. I know that J.K. Rowling, the author of the Harry Potter series, is problematic on her best days, but, and this isn't a referendum on her, but an acknowledgement that the world that she created, maybe despite her best efforts, is a world that speaks very distinctly to the other, and one that freely enables games like this to build worlds that live within a particular framework that many of us feel deeply connected to, but is still distinctly ours. This completely free expression of self is, I think, a crucial subtext to gaming, particularly online. The dog is right. On the internet, no one knows you're a dog. And if you want to express that other side of yourself, gay, straight, male, female, whatever, in an online game, because that's where you're comfortable, even in the real world where that can be sometimes really, really hard to do, you'll find that home there. In fact, you could probably do an entire service just about recreating yourself in virtual spaces. It's easy to think of games, particularly video games, as a young person's activity. And the average young person in a developed country will spend more than 10,000 hours by age 21 playing games. Not coincidentally, Malcolm Gladwell talks about 10,000 hours as the minimum amount of hours you need to spend with something to be really successful at it. So we're raising a generation of people who are going to be better than us at playing games, which my daughter will remind me of every chance she gets. So what is it that they're getting good at? It's not hand-eye coordination, although that is something. Gamers are, despite the paradox of failure, incredible optimists. I watched our daughter throw herself over and over into a tricky level of the game Splatoon a couple weeks ago. It took her a solid hour, getting hit, falling, starting over, getting hit, falling, starting over, getting to a checkpoint, getting hit, falling, starting back at the checkpoint, until eventually, she got it. Gaming builds up trust and cooperation. We talk about the interdependent web of all existence. Gamers who play massive multiplayer online role-playing games live the interdependent web. You can't play Warcraft or Fortnite or Dungeons & Dragons without help. You need to make connections with other people who will help build your character, and you need to work together to defeat the biggest, baddest enemies in the hardest dungeons. Gaming builds up problem-solving skills. Take a game like Tetris. Tetris came out from the Soviet Union back in the mid-1980s. You've got a vertical shaft and tetrominoes, pieces that are made up of 4 squares in different configurations that randomly fall one by one from the top. You need to rotate and slide the pieces back and forth to form full lines. And when you form a full line, the line gets deleted and you get points. The more lines you form, the more points you get. You learn cost-benefit analysis. Do you try to build up 4 nearly solid lines and leave a single block width shaft and hope you get one of the 4 in a row long pieces, or do you just try to get as many individual lines as you can? Another example comes from when I first gave this talk at our old church many years ago when our son was 6 years old. He was sitting next to me playing a dinosaur zoo game on the iPad where you have to figure out how to maintain the park. Lay out the paddocks, build concession stands, feed the animals, clean the animals, all that. And he's playing, and one of the patrons of his little virtual dinosaur zoo said, "I'd go into this park if it had better maintenance." And so he asks, "Dad, what's maintenance?" And so I explained, and he said, "Well, I have no money left." And I said, "Well, you play the game and you build up money, and then you can feed the dinosaurs and clean the park." So he's playing, and not 2 minutes later, he realizes that he can buy fezzes for all the dinosaurs. And so he's spending money to plop fezzes on all his dinosaurs, and there's garbage piling out of the virtual garbage cans, and his virtual customers are running as fast as they can from the park. And so he's learning. Maybe not as quickly as you would like if you're hoping to hire a 6-year-old to run your zoo. How to make decisions, how to prioritize. Thankfully, he's come a long way. The community of gamers is an exceptionally strong one. It rewards persistence, it recognizes hard work, and celebrates our differences through the common thread of games. There it is. B.J. Best is a poet who wrote a book called But Our Princess is in Another Castle, which is a title that gamers immediately recognize as a reference to the old Super Mario game. Best tells the story of being a kid working so hard to beat that game, and he finally did it one night, and he was so excited he ran and told his mom, and her response was, "Go to bed." Which, he says, was, in retrospect, an entirely reasonable suggestion, but by then I was hooked. But he also says that no matter who's playing Super Mario Brothers, where they are, when they're playing, from the mid-'80s when it came out to today, Mario looks the same. The hidden one-up mushroom is in the same spot in the first level, and so on. People have their own reactions, of course, but there's something nebulously common about all people who play the game. And again, that shared experience creates a culture. That shared experience is quite literally the very definition of culture that allows us to form that bond, that community. 2 more gaming terms I want to introduce. Ludus, which is the taste for gratuitous difficulty. The reason a game is a game. It stresses order and encourages specific behavior. It's the win-loss of games. Consider tic-tac-toe. Kids think they can win. You and I know, though, no matter who goes first, no matter where you put your X, nobody's going to win that game. And yet we teach our kids tic-tac-toe, and they are confident that this time they have tricked you. As we get older, we need more of a challenge than that. There's no joy there. You're not going to find a bunch of us sitting around during coffee hour playing tic-tac-toe because there's no ludus there. The game never gets any harder, and as such, there's very little reason for us to get invested in it. The other one is paideia, which is the basic freedom being central to play in order to stimulate distraction and fantasy. This is when the kids run around the house playing My Little Ponies or Star Wars or whatever. All animals play, puppies play, lions play, dolphins play, babies play. And what we, and they, do when they play is we learn how to experience the world. We learn how to win, learn how to lose. So games use that mix of ludus and paideia to create that thrill of victory, agony of defeat, that not only helps you grow, but is hard to get anywhere else. In order to make the game interesting, there needs to be uncertainty, much like in life. If we knew exactly what was going to happen every time we did something, we wouldn't have a whole lot of fun doing it. And as Jerry Greenfield of Ben & Jerry's says, if it isn't fun, why do it? Life's too short to not enjoy yourself. Nintendo has, over the last 35 years, released a number of games in the Legend of Zelda series. There are a number of reasons why these games are so wildly successful and why they keep retooling and releasing newer, better, more elaborate games in the series. There are a lot of continuing themes in the Zelda series, characters, some of the skills that your character learns. But even though you know if you keep playing and learning and solving and going back and trying again with a different tack, eventually you're going to be able to beat Ganondorf in the end. Then there's incredible Fiero in finally taking down the bad guy after all that work. And for those of you who have played Tears of the Kingdom, right around 9:55, as Reverend Sherry was walking in with that, the only thing I could think was how desperately I want to fuse it to a royal halberd and take out a monster of some kind. Because it looks like a Legend of Zelda weapon. So you're sitting there saying, okay, Chris, play is for kids. I know how to win, I know how to lose. You're saying, I don't care about winning and losing. And here's where this impacts our world. You need to think about this gigantic generation of people who are gaming every day of their lives, and how those people will look at the world and how they'll look at the problems of the world. And studies are finding incredible ways that games are making the world a better place. Gamers are super empowered, hopeful individuals. These are people who believe that they are individually capable of changing the world. The only problem is that they and we believe they are capable of changing virtual worlds and not the real world. In her book, Reality is Broken, Dr. McGonigal discusses alternate reality games already improving the quality of our daily lives, fighting social problems such as depression and obesity, and addressing vital 21st century challenges. And she forecasts thrilling possibilities. She introduces us in the book to a game called World Without Oil, which was a simulation designed to brainstorm and therefore avert the challenges of a worldwide oil shortage, and Evoke, a game commissioned by the World Bank Institute that sends players on missions to address issues from poverty to climate change. McGonigal argues that those who continue to dismiss games will be at a disadvantage in the coming years. Gamers, on the other hand, will be able to leverage the collaborative and motivational power of games in their lives, communities, and businesses. She shows us the future will belong to those of us that who understand, design, and play games. So what does this mean for us as First Unitarian? I mean, besides Sherry replacing a hymn with game time once in a while. We need to learn to trust, to play, to fail. We need together to learn how to lose and how to take that loss and learn from it so that when we come back at that demon next time, we're stronger, we're smarter, and we're ready to come at it again and again until we've accomplished our mission, whatever that mission is, and at whatever level we find ourselves here. Whether it's committee work or the board or volunteering to help out with RE or helping Massey move chairs or helping Mary Brett in the kitchen, we persist. We might fail, we might not get it right the first time, but when we learn how to lose, we grow as a people and as a community. And that is life. From an article on GameSpot.com by Jess Howard recently. The reality is, the idea that there's a right path only exists in our heads. Sure, there can be places we'd like to get to and ways we'd prefer to get to them, but we're going to be a whole lot more satisfied and at peace if we're willing to embrace the journey and the fact that our options are unfathomably vast, complex, and messy, just as we are ourselves. And if that's not enough to reassure you, it's also worth mentioning that in both Tears of the Kingdom and in real life, simply doing what's expected or what others are doing is just plain old boring. What's the point of longing for a one-size-fits-all solution for life when you can create something beautiful and perfectly tailored to you? At times, our troubles will be self-inflicted, much like electing to scale a rocky cliff with no stamina upgrades and rain in the forecast. Other times, the gamers get that one. Other times, misfortune will be out of our control, and sometimes things will go far better than we ever could have anticipated. The real challenge will then be to savor that feeling rather than question it, to fight off guilt, imposter syndrome, and all the other thieves that occupy our mind. Throughout everything, your journey, what it has given you, and how you use those pieces of yourself are nothing to be ashamed of. So that is my challenge to you, to us. Play together. Don't just work together, play together. Plop yourselves down in front of that White House with the boarded front door and the mailbox, and open up that world and see what you find inside. You will find that world to be vibrant, interesting, engaging. You will learn about yourself. You'll learn about others, even though You do not always win.
Please rise in body and spirit and join me in singing our closing hymn, We Laugh, We Cry, verses 1 and 4.
If you don't think of yourself as a gamer, you probably still don't, but engage. Like if you have kids or grandkids who are like, engage with them. Literally just yesterday, Claire was playing Legend of Zelda, literally ran her horse off a cliff, and it doesn't sound funny, but it was hysterical at the time. So engage with your family and friends. Quote, "We value play, where people find permission to take risks, to fail and have fun trying again and again. In play, people are empowered to move freely through rigid structures like rules, cultural norms, or personal belief system. In that freedom is the potential for transformation through a breakthrough beyond whatever confines us." Let's say together our chalice extinguishing words. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Go now. Thanks for coming, everybody.